here we have three sets: nurses, pediatric nurses, and men. So we're going to draw a Venn diagram that'll exhibit the relationship among these three sets. So let's start off with any one of the sets. Let's say nurses. So that is a set of all nurses. Now let's think about how pediatric nurses are related to nurses. All pediatric nurses are nurses in general. But if you go the other way, that is not true. All nurses do not have to be pediatric nurses. So based on this observation, we can put the set of pediatric nurses inside the set of nurses. And this tells us that all pediatric nurses are nurses in general. So now we've taken care of the two sets, the nurses and the pediatric nurses. Now let's think about men in general. Now men could be nurses, they could be pediatric nurses, or they could be neither pediatric nurses nor nurses in general. So we need to make sure that our Venn diagram will exhibit all these relationships that we talked about. So let's see if this works. Okay, so let's look at the various regions. If we look at that blue region, the blue region sits in the set of all men for sure, because that entire shape, the oval shape, is the set of all men. So the blue region intersects with or overlaps with the circle, which is pediatric nurses. So the blue portion is a man who is also a pediatric nurse. Okay, let's look at another region. Let's color it, let's say yellow. Now let's look at that specific region. Now when you look at the yellow region, we are looking definitely at men. What else is true about these men in that yellow region? These men are also nurses. But the yellow region is outside the PN, which is the pediatric nurse region, the circle. So therefore, these are nurses, but not pediatric nurses. So they are male nurses. Okay, but then we have to add the detail, but not pediatric nurses. Now the last region, let's look at this region. So that would be men for sure, because they're in the set of all men. They are definitely not nurses. And if they are not nurses, they are definitely, as a consequence, not pediatric nurses for sure, right? But if you say they're not nurses, that takes care of them not being pediatric nurses. So they are men who are not nurses. So that makes sense. So there are men. So if there is a person sitting right here, that's a man for sure, and definitely outside the circle of nurses. So it's a man who is not a nurse.